Hello and welcome. My name is Carol Carter and I'm the founder and CEO of Global Minded. And you are experiencing today part of our 2021 virtual conference, which is called Reboot Resilience: Rebound Remarkable. Each of the sessions that we have are focused on the ways in which we can come out of the last year, COVID strong, COVID capable, with a lot more potential than if we hadn't gone through the difficulties of the last year. So we're delighted that each of these different panels feature leaders from many diverse backgrounds, some from many parts of the world. And this week is all about celebrating educators and learners. And today's topic is Latino leaders as learning change makers. The future of work is diverse, inclusive, just, and equitable. And we're delighted to have our panel leader, Adrian Rosado, who many of you know. He runs the Zion Group. He works all over the world, and he is innovating in so many different ways for first generation to college and poverty affected students. And his latest innovation, which we just did a session on a couple of weeks ago, is on virtual global internships. So Adrian, it's wonderful to welcome you and your fabulous panel, and we're looking forward to the next hour with you. I'll also share that we're recording the session, and this will also be posted to our YouTube channel, so you can share it with your DEI partners, counterparts, and students who very much value seeing these diverse leaders as their role models. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you for the kind and warm introduction, Carol. As I've always mentioned, and as I will continue to mention, it's been an honor and a privilege to work with, collaborate, and be a part of the Global Minded team. I love the mission. I love the vision. I love what you guys do for students, employers, corporations around equity and diversity. It's been a fabulous time working with y'all for the last 5-ish years. So I'm excited to see the continued growth. I've had the opportunity to bring some of my network into the Global Minded family and community, and have been such an asset to meet a lot of the other community members of the Global Minded family as well. So again, thank you, and I'm looking forward to everybody in the Global Minded community to be able to get to know some of our panelists today. It's going to be a really good time, and I'm excited to hear some of the insights and talents and information from our extremely esteemed panelists today. So thank you. As we were talking, today's panel is entitled Latino Leaders as Learning Change Makers. So today, what we want to talk about is the future of work being diverse, inclusive, just, and equitable. So as Ms. Carter mentioned earlier, we have a really diverse array of panelists today who are going to speak about their experiences and their thoughts around workforce diversity and equity. So I've had the opportunity to work with everybody on the panel in some shape, form, or capacity, and they were chosen for a very specific reason. As you get to know, I'll introduce them shortly, but I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you a bit about themselves. But what I do want to mention ahead of time is they come from such different backgrounds. So we have corporate represented, we have nonprofit represented, we have the university represented, and we also have a McNair college student on our panel as well. So the viewpoints that we are going to get today are going to be extremely valuable and extremely different. And I'm excited to just hear what everybody brings to the table. So with that said, I would like to introduce our panel, and if you will, please, as I open up the intro, if you can tell us about your educational journey, and then tell us 3 phrases that describe you and why. So I'm going to start. How about this? Let's start up in Rhode Island with the wonderful Miss Sixcia Devine.
Sounds good. Okay. So my educational journey, Adrian?
Your educational journey and 3 phrases that describe you and why, or 3 words that describe you and why.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this panel. And, when I received these questions, you really had me reflect on some time on my academic journey, which has helped me throughout my professional career. So I'd probably say that My upbringing was pretty much radical as it relates to educational institutions. So I went to all public schools from, kindergarten up until, and I even went to a public university. But being part of the inner city school system was certainly survival of the fittest. I mean, there were all kinds of things that were happening except learning, reading, writing, and understanding what was happening in school. But that was just the nature of our environment, which I thought was normal because I didn't know anything but that. And it was certainly a roller coaster where I learned so much about business growing up in the inner city that when I reached the university, and by the way, I got into the University of Rhode Island, that's my alma mater. I got in through that program through Upward Bound and another program called Talent Development, which because of those programs, they fast forwarded my academic education, and the summer programs and after school programs that I participated in were basically about, this is what you need to know. This is simplified. Let's go. We're going to get you to the next level. Meanwhile, my grades were all A's and B's, but to write an essay, that was really challenging because I didn't know how to do that on my own. Those programs helped me to understand the structure that I needed quickly. From there, I went to, like I said, I was admitted into the University of Rhode Island, where it was certainly academically challenging as well as socially challenging. I'm going to tell you why. All of my friends that I grew up with, they were, 100% into music, bachata, merengue, salsa, cumbia, like that was my thing. Music was my life. It helped me on so many platforms. Then when I entered another environment, which was so culturally different, that's very important as a person when you're entering a new space. You don't see people that look like you. And because I was admitted through the talent development program, it was an opportunity for me to kind of represent my family in a way that would make them proud. So at many times, on many occasions, I was ready to leave. I mean, I was done because of the academic and social environment that I wasn't used to. But because of the mentors that were connected to me through the talent development program, where I would go on a weekly basis and I would share with them my disbelief in culture and the kinds of music that they were listening to, and everything that was happening academically, I was able to figure out that, hey, even if I'm in a classroom setting, because the goal was for me to get that paper, even though I was in that classroom setting, at the end of the day, it was about simplifying the education that I needed to pass the classes and to move forward. But my mentors really brought things to light. And then I'm going to end with this. I remember many times I would go in, I'd be like, listen, this is not good for me. This academic situation is not working for me. And at the end of the day, my mentors would tell me, there were two of them. It was a husband and wife, and Frank Folio and Sharon Folio. And they would basically also simplify it and say to me this: Sixcia, don't be the victim, be the victor. So do me a favor, shut up and get to work. And that's all I needed. It was like, listen, you have this at your fingertips, but it was my mindset that I had to deal with. And so having experienced all of that, my journey took me to helping people start and grow businesses. I mean, people would tell me what kind of business they wanted to start. And I helped hundreds of people to do that, not only in English, but also in Spanish, because I was able to use my Spanish skills to help others and to simplify them. And because of that, I was recruited. I'm one of 14 speakers for Grow with Google, and one of 2 bilingual speakers within this large program. So because of all of those things that I had to go through, which I thought was extremely difficult, and why me, I had to stop that. Now I'm here. And I also have a nonprofit organization where we take volunteers of people to developing countries, and we do social entrepreneurial work.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Ms. Devine. Quickly, 3 words that describe you.
So I had to write them down because I was like, all right, hold on. So the first one was, I thought energetic, adventurous, and risky.
energetic, adventurous, and risky. All right. You set the tone. So you set the tone. So with that said, let's move a little further west from Rhode Island, and let's end up in a beautiful Midwest country or city of Indianapolis, Indiana, with Miss Yecenia Tostado, the Executive Director of Project Azul. Yecenia, I'm so happy to have you here. Personally, really quick, I've had the opportunity to work with Yecenia for many, many years in different roles. She's one of my favorite people. I love the work that she does. She worked with our company when we were just starting out. So, Yecenia, it's an honor to have you on this panel. I'm excited to hear, what you bring to the table. So please tell us about your educational journey and 3 words that describe you.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm really excited to be here with you all this afternoon. So my educational journey, like Sixcia, I also went to public school. So my K through 12 was all public schools, and what I learned after going through my public school education were actually failing schools, right? Because you don't know the concept of what is a failing school when you're 6 years old starting in public school, or even really going through middle and high school. But then as an adult, you learn about like school grades and how your school compares to other schools. But luckily I had very supportive home life where my family really understood the importance of education and the opportunities and doors that it would open as a first generation Latino family in Indiana, which as you can imagine was also not the most diverse place back when I was growing up. So went to public schools for K through 12, went to Indiana University, first generation college student. That was really the first time that I got to do formal education in Spanish. It was the first time that I really got to do intentional learning about my culture through some of the Latino studies courses that were available. I think one of the things that really helped me be successful is I was involved in different enrichment programs, not formal programs like Upward Bound, but more informal programs like student council and different study groups that we would form together as young folks. So those support networks that I was able to be part of really helped me be successful and stay focused. 3 words that I would use to describe myself. I would say that I am humble, but also ambitious, and that I am very collaborative. So I really love work where I am able to engage with different people, and work that is servant focused, so really focused on filling a need in the community and helping people progress to their next step in a service focused way.
Awesome. Thank you, Yesenia. Appreciate you being on the line and sharing with us. Let's keep it in the Midwest. Let's go up to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater with our McNair scholar and our senior business major, Miss Alissa Santana.
Hi.
Please share with us your educational journey, 3 words that describe you, and why, Miss Santana.
So starting off my educational journey, I went to a small Lutheran school, private school, all through middle school. I never really liked school. I struggled honestly in math and science, but I was always good at reading and writing. So when I got to high school, still struggled with math, didn't feel confident in my educational journey during that time until I got to college. I came to college not knowing really what I wanted to do. I come from a family of entrepreneurs who are all in business. So I was really confused with what would be my path. And that year, my freshman year, really took a toll on my academics. And I felt like I needed a change or something to transpire. And I went on a cultural immersion trip with Adrian to China. And that really refocused and kind of changed my life, actually, because I like ignited a passion in me for higher education. And I knew when I came back to school, I needed something different. I needed to get involved. And then I learned about the McNair Scholars Program, and I got exposed to research, and I was like, let me just apply. So I did, and I was accepted, and it was the best thing that I could do in my collegiate career. It opened up so many doors for me. I found a love for research, and now I am actually graduating Friday with my undergrad, and will be coming back here for my MBA with an emphasis in marketing, and I'll also be a McNair graduate coordinator. So I'll be able to still be involved in the program and with TRIO. So that's just a little bit about my educational journey currently and what I've been doing. So yeah.
3 words that describe you.
Yeah, I was thinking, so I would really think one word would be inquisitive or curious. I like to ask a lot of questions, but only because I want to learn new things, as well as kind of explore, discover, and grow. So I feel like that goes hand in hand with research because I want to know a lot of things with that. I also said I would be resourceful. I try to maximize the opportunities that I have in front of me to create more opportunities, I would say. And I would also say that I'm dependable. I try to be reliable to my peers as well as just holding myself accountable. So those were just 3 words I thought kind of displayed myself.
Thank you, Ms. Santana. And I will say this, as professionals, I think we can all understand that we can all put a very high premium on somebody being dependable. So that's a good word to put in there, dependable. So thank you again for sharing with us, and we're excited to hear more about you and your thoughts as we go through the panel. So with that said, you know, I like to finish our introductions in beautiful weather, palm trees, and wonderful beaches. So let's make our way down to the beautiful Caribbean, San Juan, Puerto Rico, with Jaime Lopez-Rivera, the Vice President for Planning and Development at the University of the Antilles. So Mr. Rivera, please tell us about your educational journey and tell us 3 words that describe you.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, several years ago, I did not believe I can be here. I come from public school. I never participated in any pre-college program, so the idea of being admitted to college was not a family tradition. So I began my undergrad studies in the University of Puerto Rico in physics, and because of destiny, I ended up studying theology. But however, I was always passionate about education, and I dreamed to be a professor. So being the first in my family to have college degree, I decided that I should do something for the educational access of others. So I decided to move to the United States without knowing English, without anyone who I know over there. So I moved to Texas, and there I prepared myself to be a college administration, and over there obtain a master's degree in higher ed. Then I moved to Puerto Rico, and I started working with low-income first-generation and international students. And then I obtained a doctorate degree in leadership and management in education. And now I work in a place where I can help others to achieve their goals. And 3 words that describe me: structured, creative, and detail-oriented.
Oh, structured and creative. I like the fact that you're able to marry those. That's awesome, awesome. Well, there we go. We have an extremely fun, engaged, intelligent panel that we're going to be hearing so much more from today. So again, everybody, thank you. Appreciate your introductions, and I'm excited to get through our questions. So with the first question, and I think that it's a great segue in terms of what we've been speaking about to this point, in terms of our educational journeys and some of our responses as well. So I want to ask everybody, how has your heritage played a role in your success? And Jaime, if we could start with you, I'm interested to hear, how has your heritage played a role in your success?
Well, heritage is extremely relevant with the success that I had. I come from a very small family. I'm the only child, and I'm from divorced parents. So no one in my family before me reached a university academic degree. So I live 5 minutes from the university, but I didn't know anything about it. So university was not an option. However, my grandmother was always a person ahead of her society, and she, with only a 3rd grade, always told me that the background let us know where we come from, but does not limit where I'm going. So, talking about a heritage, I think that heritage helped us to understand the way we was raised and the context where we live, but also encourage us to give to our heritage again something different. As a Puerto Rican, and being an American, believing under a different political context, a different language, and many stereotypes, I learned that I need to value where I come from. Coming from a humble home does not limit my talent. Rather, they move me to do something better for my country, for my city, but above all for my family and my students currently. So I believe that a person who forgets his or her heritage can forget what he or she is and maybe end up being irrelevant to the way that to what we was called. So what I learned from my heritage to be resilient, persistent, and seize opportunities. That's what I learned from my heritage.
And if we could say one thing definitely about Puerto Rico and the people of Puerto Rico is that resilience is in their blood. So thank you for closing out with that statement, because over the past couple of years, or a long time, but more specifically these past couple of years, Puerto Rico has gone through quite a bit. So resilience is very much in the nature. And thank you for being a bridge and a resource to the students and the community here in Puerto Rico. Jaime, appreciate that. So let's head over back to Rhode Island. Ms. Sixcia, talk to us. How has your heritage played a role in your success?
Well, so both of my parents are from a nearby island, not Puerto Rico, la Isla del Encanto, but Dominican Republic. So they came over to the United States in 1970 because my mother couldn't have any children. And of course, they wanted to live the American dream. And anyway, when she arrived, both my parents, they went through treatments to have me. And just, they went through 6 years, and my mother went through 6 procedures. And finally, I was born in a year that ends with the number 6, hence my name. So they wrote down the number 6 in English, SIX. And then they said, she's been so secret. Hopefully she's going to be so smart like the Central Intelligence Agency. So they put the number 6 and CIA together. So their reason for coming here was twofold: to have me, and also, like I said, to live a better life. They started a little bodega, and my grandmother raised, just at the beginning of our youth, raised myself, and then my brother came along. And my grandmother didn't know any English, so she would give me the mail. I remember at a very young age, and I would have to translate all the mail, all the coupons, whatever. It was easy for her to read any important correspondences. And then being able to go back and forth and translating and thinking in both languages, right? At a very early age, really set the tone to help other people that weren't able to, let's say, articulate or speak to other people. So I remember that one of my first positions was at the mayor's office, and we did a lot of service work within the communities. And I realized that there were so many people, tax-paying people, who did not know the language or understand the paperwork. And so I ended up being, just out of necessity. And it wasn't like I wanted to do the translation, but I ended up being really somebody that people would come to me and say, mira, tú me entiendes, come over here, ven, yo quiero hablar contigo, come on, I want to talk to you, because you need to tell them what is happening within our communities, whether it was unjust, whether it was celebrations, whether all of that was happening. And so, taking that to now economic development and economic growth, that's equally as important, because we have so many people who prefer to speak or understand Spanish, and they're missing out on a lot of essential things that can help them move forward faster and better. So within Google, whenever I do these presentations, I always let people know, if I'm doing something like this, I say, and by the way, también se hace presentaciones en español, because they need to understand that there's different types of Latinos. And I happen to be one of those, and there's many people like me. But I felt like, my upbringing really set the tone for being able to be, an advocate. And when I was little, I didn't want to do that. That as a matter of fact, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I just ended up being of service. this is what is needed. People need help. Let's help them in some way through language and communication.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that, Miss Sixcia, and thank you for the background in your name. That's always a really cool story that I like hearing. And then it shows kind of like the mindset of your parents on, you know, where they're at, but also where they wanted you to go and what they wanted you to be. So, you know, that's super important in terms of, you know, where they came from, but where they saw you going. So we appreciate you sharing that story with us. Let's go to Miss Alissa Santana. How has your heritage played a role in your success?
My heritage has played a major role in my success because both of my parents were born here in Chicago. So I grew up not knowing any Spanish. I am not fluent. So I've always felt as though I was not truly Puerto Rican. And I've always wanted to get a better sense of my culture and just to know more of it. And I've gone to schools where there have been little diversity, and I have only been the only Latinx, person at the school. So coming to college and seeing the need for diversity and inclusion and the need to like educate others, because although I don't speak Spanish, I am heavily involved in my culture and I want to know more about it. So I started to do more research and started to learn more about how I can help my community and how I could advocate for them. So I started to do research on the distinctiveness of marketing and fundraising to Latinx arts organizations. And now I feel as though that I'm getting a better sense of who I am and a better sense of how I can help my community in any way, shape, or form that I can. So that's just a little bit of how my heritage and background has kind of helped me and shaped me to where I am right now. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, for a lot of the Latinos that come stateside or that are stateside, I'm sure a lot can relate to that story and your feelings in terms of wanting to do more but still feeling like this disconnection, right? So now, you want to put yourself in a position to be able to connect further, being born in the States. So yeah, I totally understand. So thank you for sharing that. Miss Yecenia Tostado, talk to us. How has your heritage played a role in your success?
Yeah, so when I was young, some of the values that were really instilled in me by my parents were respect for all, right? Respect for all, regardless of age, regardless of background, the importance of being humble, and also the importance and the need to be a hard worker, right? So really building that resilience and that possibility that anything is possible as long as you work hard and stay focused. And I think the way that has really helped me be successful is in a number of ways. I think those are just great core values to have as a professional to really have centered in your work and in the way that you approach things. But also beyond that, other aspects of the culture, our culture really it really is a superpower in a lot of ways. Latinos are very collective, so we tend to think of others, we tend to think of family, we tend to come together to solve problems. That opportunity or that ability to collaborate and work with others and be able to just kind of be open and flexible and adaptable really, I think, sets us apart in a lot of ways, because a lot of us have had to be bicultural or chameleon-like in some ways in our upbringing as we shift from different environments, whether it is, a predominantly American environment or a predominantly Latino environment. So I think, just having that adaptability, having that collectivism, knowing the importance of collectivism, and then being able to build trust with people across cultures, across generations, across industries is really important and has also helped me to be successful.
Awesome. And I think that, one of the reasons when I was thinking specifically about you and being on the panel is a lot of the work that you've done in the city of Indianapolis around diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I'll let you speak a little bit more about it, but your trajectory in that space in the city of Indianapolis has been amazing. So, I think that's a great segue for us to go into the next question for you specifically, if you don't mind, Yesenia. But how would you personally ensure that inclusivity and diversity becomes the norm in your specific industry? And if you could preface that with some of the work that you've done, especially with Project Azul, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things in places like Indianapolis where diversity is, we are just now becoming more diverse. In the last 20 years, the Latino population in Indiana has more than tripled. So it's really a place where the population is very new. And organizations are really having to adapt and think about their approach in welcoming new populations to their services. So as Adrian mentioned, I'm the executive director of an organization called Project Azul. We're a nonprofit organization focused on workforce development. Before I talk about Project Azul, though, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did prior to Project Azul. So I worked in a university setting with Upward Bound, working specifically with high school students to help them prepare for college and be successful to enter college. So really thinking back, to that work, my career was really founded in this opening doors for individuals or helping individuals along the path to education and career success. So really, I worked in that traditional pipeline of helping individuals and their families understand the college process, understand the admissions process, understand, kind of those cultural aspects of what is expected in those environments. And then in workforce, more in traditional pipeline development, so helping individuals obtain internships or work-based experiences that were meaningful for them to explore their career interests. With Project Azul, it's a little bit of a pivot because all my work was in the traditional pipeline. Project Azul, we really look to serve adults who have been left out. They've been left behind in some way. So 70% of our population has a high school diploma or less. And not, that I don't believe that education attainment is a measure of intelligence at all. It's really a measure of how has the system served individuals, predominantly individuals from systemically marginalized backgrounds where the system has for some reason left them behind, or life has happened and they've had to prioritize other things. So with Project Azul, we are focused on skills-based training for individuals who want to improve their quality of life by obtaining a better position. So here in Indiana, the living wage, I know it's different across the country, so this might be lower than what's in other parts of the country, but the living wage that we've identified as what a family needs to earn in order to have a good quality of life is $18 per hour. And so that's kind of the average wage that individuals look for in, even if they have a college degree or beyond. You can imagine that for individuals that have a high school diploma or less, the earning potential is quite lower. We still follow the federal minimum wage of $7.25, so it could be as low as $7.25 an hour. So that's an $11 an hour gap. With Project Azul and our skills-based training, we're getting individuals into positions where they're making an average of $17 per hour. It's not 18, but it's getting them really close to that $18 per hour so that within a few months or a year, they could well be beyond that $18 per hour. So the reason that our work, I think, is so critical, I think diversity and inclusion is so important at all levels. We have to think about how can we make spaces more welcoming? How can we be more responsive to the actual needs of the community? How can we be more responsive to those in our neighborhoods that we're trying to serve? So I think, what I've really sought to do in all of my positions, both career and volunteer, is opening doors and really creating awareness and really, I think, creating solutions that are practical for different populations, because it's not a one-size-fits-all world, right? We know that we can't just create one model and then scale it to meet the X number who need this solution, because that developed program, you have to individualize things. You have to make sure that things are tailored to meet the needs of different populations as well as different individuals, because everybody has a different journey. Another effort that I want to mention, because it's community focused, is several years ago, some colleagues and I, one of the things that's missing in Indianapolis is a Latino leadership pipeline program. So as volunteers, we developed a Latino leadership program. It's co-sponsored by the mayor's office and the Indiana Latino Expo, which is a nonprofit here in the state. And basically a volunteer-led committee, we organized a young professionals Latino leadership program. We're now in our third year where we've served over 60 young professionals through this program, and they basically go through leadership and personal development as well as community and civic engagement. So we're really creating this pipeline that we recognize as something that wasn't available here in the city for young professionals, and knew it was a great need that would enhance just the city in general.
Awesome, Yecenia. Thank you for sharing that. It's always, seeing the trajectory and just your whole path and your journey has been a complete joy. So, I love the work that you do. I've always loved the work that you do, and thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for sharing with us. So with that said, let's go towards Dr. Lopez. Dr. Lopez, talk to us. What kind of work are you doing at the university level? But then also, how are you ensuring diversity and equity in your specific field?
Well, I have had the opportunity to work with people from many places, ages, color, religious thinking, and I currently work in a place where we have 27 countries represented. So making sure that leaders understand that inclusion is about ensuring that everyone's voice is heard, opinions are considered, and value to the team is evident. So first of all, I think a very important phase is to establish a sense of belonging for everyone. I think that having a connection of a group of people that make you feel can you be yourself will result in greater engagement and creativity also for employees and students. Then taking bold actions with diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts here on campus. I believe that effective diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts or strategies will help better support employees, building culture and create a thriving business. And also I believe that employees and students will feel more engaged if they feel safe, connected, and valuable. And last but not least, support professional development opportunities to others. I believe that my goal here is to help others to achieve the same or better opportunities that I have had. So in that case, we both grow. So I believe in that.
Awesome, awesome. What are some projects that you've worked on at the university in your role right now that showcase that?
Well, currently I'm working with internationalization of education. So we are creating a safe community virtually and on campus that a student can share their experiences, but also create a community that each other can help them to pursue their goals. So now we're working on that project, and possibly in 6 months we will have a community here on campus that we are connecting with other universities from Puerto Rico to create a inter-university association that work together to put in a group the students for international backgrounds.
Awesome, awesome. And what and the cool part about that, that I realized about being in Puerto Rico for the time that I've been in is, while a lot of people think that Puerto Rico is just occupied with Puerto Ricans, what I've learned is that there's people from all over the world here. What I've noticed is Puerto Rico almost serves as like a landing point between Central America and Europe and Asia for some reason. I've met so many unique business owners, educators that come to Puerto Rico to teach, to start businesses. And, for many years, I just thought, in an island, a small island in the Caribbean, it's going to be, the population is going to be mostly, Puerto Ricans. And it's been so cool to just see all these people. I've met people here from Africa, from China, from Japan, from India, and it's been an amazing. And the cool thing about that, Jaime, is that I'd say about half of the people that I've met are involved in the university system here. So to your point about developing that intercollegiate platform, that's just going to open up the globalization of this island even more. And then as I wrap this up, because again, I've had quite an experience here, I've met a ton of people from Colombia, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, in Puerto Rico. And it's been like, it's just been a really cool, eye-opening experience just to see all these different people come to Puerto Rico for whatever reason, right? But it's also a cool experience to see them understand that, it's also a bridge to the US, to the States. And they see that as an opportunity. And it's awesome just to have these people from around the world have this high regard for an island in the Caribbean. So thank you for all that you do. We appreciate that. Miss Sixcia Devine, talk to us. Give us a little bit of background on some of the projects you've worked on that support diversity and inclusion, and how you're gonna work on becoming that a norm in your industry.
Yeah, most definitely. So one of the things that attending the University of Rhode Island really taught me was to go to places and attend events where nobody looks like me, where they speak differently, where they do things differently. And so that transition from, where it was hugely Dominican, Latino, we only did what we did, there, going into the university really taught me that, being able to be part of different groups was highly important, because within our culture, and I think it was Yecenia that said that we're almost like chameleons. And so one of the things that I've been doing for the last couple of years is being in places where, let's say, women of color aren't represented, like technology events, not only as a speaker where I get to speak Spanish, but to be an industry leader within technology and technology growth, where then they hear from me, they learn from me, not as, let's say, a woman of color, but as an individual. And so I've been really excited about doing different things, going to a lot of places where a lot of finances are talked about as it relates to economic development and economic growth. So instead of leaning in, I have to stand up. So that way people could see me as an industry leader. And so that's been consistent in a way that I'm open, I'm here to help you. Whatever ideas they might have about individuals that look like me or my community, that's okay, because I'm about to change that. And so I think that if we think more about that, where we're going out there and we're putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations. In my field of business a few years ago, when I was dealing with a lot of bankers, and I did a lot of work with older mentors, the Service Corps retired executives, which was fantastic. A lot of the things that I've learned is that they individuals are very curious about other cultures, but they're just not sure how to engage us. And so a lot of the conversations after we finished talking about, let's say, business or technology, or in this instance about money, was, wow, that's so interesting. And then the cultural questions would come up. When you speak, you only have a little bit of an accent. And so my response was very like, wow, that's very interesting. When you speak, you just have a little bit of an accent too. Thank you for noticing. So, taking it in a way where it's like, you know what, we're human beings, we're in a learning environment. My mindset, is my mindset, and my mission is to be of service in a way that people see me in a different light, where we're breaking that, where I'm in Google and it's very interesting. They're saying, okay, let's invite Sixcia to this Hispanic event. And so I'm like, okay, great, but let's invite Sixcia to all of these other events, which I have been invited to. I'm not just the label okay? If they need somebody to speak Spanish or to represent the culture, that's fantastic. But it's also necessary and important that we show up in other places. And so that is the way I am being inclusive. It's through my marketing company, which Google hired me under there. And then also through the nonprofit organization that I've run for 10 years, where we bring volunteers from the United States and we engage them with communities in need, where it's they're doing something to help other people while at the same time they're learning the culture and they're understanding how to give service. And while they're changing other people's lives, those individuals are also changing their own lives. So it's putting others in a situation where they are being of service, and that changes the way people think once you put them in that situation. So I'm doing that with Caritas, and we're also adding a technology workshop series where we're teaching basic technology skills within developing countries in Spanish. And so Google's going to be a part of that. We're just launching this series and we're very excited about that.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Ms. Devine. Appreciate that. And thank you for sharing all of those wonderful things that you're bringing to the forefront. I will say this, one thing that I'm going to take away, and I'll probably this probably won't leave my mind for a long time, is we don't lean in, you stand up.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm not going to forget that. And I hear a lot of things, right? I talk to a lot of people all the time. So that stood out to me. It's not about us leaning in. It's about standing up. That's powerful. So thank you for sharing that. So with that said, I want to switch. I want to stand on a similar, I want to stay with the theme, but I want to pivot slightly, and I want to go towards the student aspect, if you will. And this is for you, Ms. Santana. So we're talking about diversity, inclusion, and how we're making sure that is in the norm, right? That becomes the norm in our industries. However, we had to crawl before we walk. There's a step we have to take before we work, right? So that's at the university level. Before we can get, that's at our educational level, I should say. So before we can even get jobs, there has to be an understanding of resources. There has to be an understanding of inclusion before we can even apply, start businesses, things of that nature. So with you, Ms. Santana, I'd like to ask you, how can minority students recognize the opportunities that are available for them and their collegiate success?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, they need to get on campus and go to their Center for Diversity and Inclusion, whatever program they have. Because I joined too late. I went my junior year, and I wish I would have went as a freshman, because the amount of funding opportunities, resources, even just with McNair, it opened so many opportunities for me that right now I'm like, wow, I wish I would have done this sooner. Or I wonder how many students don't know that these resources are available on campus. And it also makes it easier for applying to graduate school, and the amount of scholarships and grad assistantships and fellowships where they're like, hey, this is specifically for a McNair scholar, or this is specifically for a Fulbright scholar. So I recommend students also, when thinking of applying to graduate school and furthering their education, to just be vulnerable and put themselves out there by emailing professors at that university saying, hey, do you know any resources I have? I'm a McNair scholar. I'm whatever you are, just emailing anyone you can in the departments as well, and in admissions, saying, I'm looking for a graduate assistantship. I'm looking for this. I can do this. That's what I recommend, and that's what I did, and it helped me a lot, and it opened so many doors for me. So I would just say to get involved, get on campus, and do not hesitate. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll speak to that really quickly. I had a similar experience. I wish I would have, and I'm pretty sure Yecenia can probably vouch for some of this as well. I speak to her specifically because of TRIO. But I know, when I went to college, I didn't even know what a graduate assistantship was until somebody offered me one, just based off of the connections that I made. right? So I'm thinking, imagine how many other resources I could have had I gone into the student life office, the student activities office, had I joined student government. I was never in the Latino club, right? That was not really my thing. But I can only imagine if I was, how many more people I would have known. And then part of my graduate assistantship was giving out scholarships to the student organization. So the Latino Student Union, the Black Student Union, Asian American Club. I was in charge of these scholarships that we would have. And you know how much money was left on the table? Because remember, these scholarships are for minority clubs and students. You know how much money was left on the table because students were just not confident enough to apply? I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I was reaching out every week. Hey, there's this application due date, and they just wouldn't apply, and the money just stays there. So to your point, Ms. Santana, yeah, sometimes you have to be vulnerable and just reach out with whatever you have to do. I mean, what do you have to lose, right? So with that said, I do want to start to wrap up our session. It's been awesome. I'm really happy about the content that we've been able to share, but I do want to start to wrap up on some closing thoughts. So with that said, I'd like to start off with this. What advice would you give to young Latinos, Latinas to ensure that they succeed in their chosen career paths? We can start with Dr. Lopez. What advice?
Well, first of all, believing you accept that you were made to reach your dream, so dream big. Then use every opportunity to learn and use that knowledge to achieve your goals. I know that every opportunity will teach you something that you will need at a certain point of your life. So know that every failure is necessary to do better next time. And finally, help others to achieve their goals. That's part of our heritage, helping others. So I think it's very important to help others to succeed.
Awesome. That's help others to succeed. That's a beautiful phrase. My mother used to tell me, it's good to be, you're blessed to be blessed, but you're even more blessed to be a blessing. So be a blessing to others, and that makes me think of the statement that you just said. So thank you for that, Dr. Lopez. Appreciate that. Ms. Santana, talk to us. What advice would you give to young Latinos to ensure that they succeed in their chosen career paths?
I said, do not hesitate, get involved and step outside of your comfort zone when opportunities present themselves, and always be prepared with whatever you need. When that opportunity presents themselves, have your resume on hand, personal statement, whatever, ready to go when that opportunity comes their way. So yeah.
Beautiful. Be ready. Be ready. Thank you, Ms. Santana. Yecenia, talk to us. What advice?
So what I would suggest that young folks do is really embrace that it's never too early to start networking. So start building your network, and that's both with your peers who are in your field, who are outside of your field. Surround yourself with good people who support you, and also look to who you want to be, or look to who you admire in the community, and reach out. I think a lot of people are willing to take that meeting, to take that lunch meeting or coffee meeting or virtual meeting, whatever the setting allows for. So don't be afraid to reach out and start to network and really start to dig in with professionals who are in the field that you're interested in pursuing, but also don't underestimate the value of your peers.
Don't underestimate the value of your peers. That's powerful. Thank you, Yesenia. Appreciate that. You know where we're going. Rhode Island. Talk to us, Sixcia.
The smallest state with the biggest heart, right? Rhode Island. So I love all of the tips. I'm going to piggyback on each and I'm pretty much each and every one of them. I would probably say, starting with this, being of service to others, whether that is in business or in your community. Whenever I coach people and help people as they move forward in their technology careers or in whatever they do, it's really important that you understand who your community is. So being able to serve them, you have to understand who they are, what language they speak, how can you better help them, how can you better simplify their lives, really. So being of service and being solution providers, again, whether that's in business or within the nonprofit environment. That's the first one. The second one is this: start small, start now. And I say that because I'm a big thinker. I'm always thinking about, okay, what's the biggest thing that I could do right now where I could have the most impact? And sometimes that becomes a block. And I think that if you have the big picture in mind, but and then if you tone it down, if you say, okay, well, what are 3 things that I could do right now? And you start off small successes, but you do it now. I've done a lot of work within universities and within academic institutions where it's important to have the academics and the research, the analytics and the data. It's important, but don't get stuck there. So start small, start now. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this, because being able to change your mind in a way that it's not only, let's say, your brain, but it's your mindset and the way you pursue your profession and how you pursue relationships and how you decide on what choices to make. Work on that and celebrate yourself and honor yourself as an individual. And that takes a lot of work, believe me. Being able to say, it's okay, it's working on the plan and knowing that the plan is going to change. But that's all an exercise in mindset. And strong leaders recognize that. So those are my tips.
Awesome. Thank you, Sixcia. I appreciate that. So I'll give a quick my thoughts on this as well. So for me, when I think about working with young people, working with professionals, oftentimes, I've gained a certain level of respect amongst different industries, different age categories. And one thing I've learned is, and that I like to pass on to anybody, it doesn't really matter how old you are, where you're at in your career, college, is don't be afraid to try something different. And I say that with very specific intentions. When I was starting my company 10 years ago, there weren't too many people my color, my age, with my background, even thinking about entrepreneurship, let alone training and development at the university level. But that's what I knew, right? So, I was getting a lot of, Adrian, it might not work out. Adrian, and all I kept on thinking about was, hey, I have an MBA. I can always go into financial services, or I can go, at a big marketing firm in Chicago, which is what I did for a year. And it worked out, and it worked out really well. But me specifically, I wanted something different. And I had to really say to myself, you know what? I've built a really awesome life up until this point, and the model is pretty solid, right? I could be comfortable, I could be happy. But there comes a point in your life when you just want something different and you just want something more. And oftentimes people just don't pursue that. So if I had to say something, I would say, don't worry about doing something different. What I've learned in 10 years, being different, being on my own, developing a team, taking my own route literally and building my own network, is 40 years worth of knowledge that I would gain in somewhere else. And, I have conversations with my mother, I have conversations with my mentors, and the stuff that we're talking about, I don't think I'd be talking about these same things with them if I didn't pursue a different trajectory. So, don't be scared to try something different. Worst case, you fail. Best case, you end up where you want to be. So, even where I'm at right now, the company and my life trajectory changes every 6 months in a beautiful way, because these doors have opened that I wouldn't have suspected 5 years ago, right? So, do something different, be different. And when you do that, different doors open. So I want to thank everybody on our panel today for being here. Sixcia, it's always a pleasure. Our conversations are amazing. Our ideation is phenomenal. Dr. Lopez, You know, you're a very special person to me, and I'm excited for us to touch base. Thank you for taking the time out to be here. I know you're very busy. You guys are in the middle of a conference, and you just took that new job, so congratulations. But again, we're very appreciative for you to be here, share your time, share your insights, and we're looking forward to you collaborating with us much further in the future. Ms. Santana, thank you for sharing your perspective. It's an honor to have your refreshing outtake and outlook and direct perspective, being a student and being a McNair scholar. And thank you for that. And Yecenia, it's definitely an honor and a privilege to be in the presence of your thought process. And some of the things that you've been able to create over the past couple of years have been astounding. And I'm so excited to see where where else you take Project Azul and where else your career takes you, because it's been a wonderful ride thus far, and it's only going to get better. So I do want to say something really quick. Thank you to my younger sister, Alissa Santana, for being on the panel. She is my sister and is one of her first panels doing something like this. Yeah, so it was good to see you on here, Alyssa. Thank you for sharing with us, and you're doing great. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
That is awesome. Well, Adrian, thank you so much. I think one of the most fun things about Global Minded is there are just thousands of amazing humans in this Global Minded network, but there's only one Adrian, and he is so special, and he brings the most special people to the table. Everybody heart-centered leaders. And I just love getting to know everybody in Adrian's big, wide network, and just look forward to introducing all of you to some other people in our network that can really help travel the great work you all are doing. So thank you so much. And I want to share tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Dr. Mort Sherman from the American Association of School Superintendents, and his topic is on developing the principal and superintendent diverse talent pipeline in K-12, which is right now not very diverse. And he works with urban superintendents, and we're going to have some of those people here tomorrow. And then after that, on Thursday, we have equity and inclusion and belonging in K-12 and how to create more environments where that can happen. And then finally, we're going to end the week. And Adrian, you're going to remember this person with a team of people on building the diverse talent pipeline in K-12 master's programs and PhD. And from our first year, we had a student, Richard Mace, and he went on to go into teaching, and now he's been promoted a couple times in Denver Public Schools, and he's the managing director of the IB program. So this is where it's so cool what happens we have a series now called Where Are They Now? Adrian's brought all these different students from all different backgrounds every year, and now they're out changing the world in all these different sectors that we serve, whether it's STEM, K-12, higher ed, technology, foundations and funders. So it's very cool to see the arc of time work of the kinds of things that Adrian's leadership is producing. So thanks to all of you. It's been fabulous getting to know you all. And we very much look forward to changing the world with you. It's such a crucial time right now. And I think that mindset that you all talked about is just so critical to the world really being able to rebound in the most incredible ways that we're all capable of, if we can really look within ourselves and draw on a lot of what you all mentioned today. So muchas gracias a todos, y ojalá que ustedes van a estar en Denver en un año.
Thank you.
Gracias. Thanks so much, everybody. It was delightful. And we'll post this tomorrow in the newsletter, and then it'll be up on the YouTube channel. You guys can share with your networks.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Take
Nice
care,
meeting you.
everybody. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.